2020 with Barbara Walters and John Miller. No one saw it coming. Beneath this father's caring exterior, rage. About to explode against his two little girls, while their mother listened helplessly on the phone.
Then I hear Faith going, "No, Daddy, please, Daddy, don't do it. Daddy, please, don't do it."
Shouldn't someone have seen the signs? Even the woman who knew him best.
Have you forgiven yourself?
Deborah Roberts, with a mother haunted by what could have been. From Times Square in New York, Barbara Walters and John Miller.
Good evening and welcome to 2020. How well do you really know the person you married? Well, tonight you will meet a woman who found out in one excruciating phone call of love. This is a difficult story for her to tell, but she says she's doing it for the sake of other families like hers who may be in more danger than they realize. I guess, John, the question is, why didn't anyone realize this danger?
Well, that is the question, because there was a history of violence there. His wife had been on the receiving end of it, but she never thought he would vent his rage on the ones he loved the most. Deborah Roberts, with a husband's horrifying act that took everyone by surprise.
You ready for your nap, little ones?
John was very charming and giving and fun, and he was just wonderful. Everybody loved John.
So who could have seen it coming? How could a handsome, successful businessman and doting father become an abusive tyrant, capable of committing the most unthinkable crime? His former wife says she endured a private hell for years, but her husband never, ever hurt his children.
He never spanked the children. He never raised his voice to the children. He never grabbed their arm. He did nothing but was loving to them.
They're dead. No. Yeah, they're dead.
Mary Jeane Pearle is still trying to understand how it all went nightmarishly wrong. For a time, her life appeared as picture-perfect as her home. Shortly after her marriage to John Battaglia, daughter Faith was born in 1992, a tomboy from the start.
I'd get a little dress out that I thought would be nice to wear today, and she'd shake her head no, and she'd go over to her drawer and she'd pull out her little Gap jeans and a little Gap t-shirt.
Liberty came along 3 years later, the exact opposite.
When she came out with her little group into the room, she was just like a swan. Just so sweet and loving. They never had an unkind word to say for anybody, not even each other.
2 beautiful girls, 3 dogs, and a home in the wealthiest neighborhood in Dallas, Texas. Mary Jeane, a successful antiques dealer from a well-to-do family. John, an established accountant with a secret, violent past.
Did you have any idea that he had been abusive in his previous marriage?
I did know. He did tell me before we married that he had gotten into an argument and hit his ex-wife. He didn't say I broke her nose.
Nor did he mention he'd brutally beaten and kicked his former wife unconscious in front of her daughter's elementary school. So Mary Jeane was not alarmed.
When did you start to notice in the relationship that things weren't exactly blissful, that there were a problem?
I really noticed it for the first time on our wedding night. He snapped at me about something, and I was like, ooh, that didn't seem quite right.
Soon, there would be more flickers of a violent temper. She says she pleaded with her husband to get counseling, but he wasn't interested. And over the years, her marriage became an emotional endurance test with constant angry tirades, some lasting 20 minutes at a time.
Why did you continue to put up with the verbal abuse, even though...
I guess just because I wanted to keep my family together. I thought I could talk him into getting counseling for it.
Then one day, a small argument nearly escalated to a physical attack.
He got real close, and his eyes were bulging out, and veins, and the whole thing, and he said, "I'll knock your head off, bitch."
Emotionally battered and weary after 8 years of verbal assaults, Mary Jeane has had enough. She files for divorce, hoping, she says, that her husband will finally get help and pull the marriage back together. Meantime, the Dallas County Family Court allows Battaglia to see his daughters unsupervised, but not to enter their home. On Christmas Day in 1999, though, Mary Jeane lets him in to see the girls. Soon, an argument erupts. He follows his wife up the stairs, then explodes in front of the children.
You know, he was just pounding on me as hard as a man can pound on the back of my head.
And what kind of shape were you in after this kind of a
Paramedics came, and they wanted to take me to the hospital for CAT scan. And I wasn't bleeding, and so I said, no, I can't go right now. My family's coming over for Christmas dinner. I've got it all ready, and I just can't leave my kids and go to the hospital on Christmas Day. So I wanted to just try to let them know everything was okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Battaglia is charged with misdemeanor assault and pleads guilty. He gets 2 years probation and is forbidden any contact with Mary Jeane. For a month, he's not allowed to see his little girls.
So 30 days after that expired, did the visitation start up again?
Yes. We saw visitation again.
And how did you feel about that?
Of course, I was worried at first, but I really thought it was only directed at me. I never thought he'd hurt the children.
8 months after the beating, a divorce court declares the Battaglia's rocky marriage is now over, but the abuse is not. Battaglia leaves threatening phone messages for his ex-wife on his daughter's answering machine, a violation of his probation. Then he tests positive for marijuana, another violation.
Why wasn't that enough to land him in jail?
Well, the district attorney's office did file a motion to revoke his probation based upon the violations of the conditions.
But Assistant DA Cindy Dyer says judges very often allow abusers who don't commit another physical assault to stay out of jail.
In this case, could you have used stronger language, stronger pressure to indicate to the judge that this is a case that looks like it could be dangerous?
We used all the information that we had, but the problem is that no one, not even the victim, who knew him better than anybody else in the whole world, saw this coming. So if the victim didn't even see this coming, then how in the world could anybody else?
In fact, Mary Jeane makes it clear to authorities that she doesn't want to send her children's father to jail.
I wanted him to continue to be a CPA, make a nice life for himself, be a good daddy to the kids. I didn't want to take his career away.
There are some mothers who would say, I would have taken those children away, I would have hidden them, I would have done anything not to let them see this abusive man.
He wasn't abusive to them.
But he continues his abuse toward her and leaves yet another angry phone message.
Get your sit down. Okay. Thanks for your help, okay?
It's enough for Mary Jeane to now begin fearing for her life. She calls the police and wants Battaglia arrested.
I thought that he might kill me. I was very fearful that he would kill me.
But she never suspects that her ex-husband, even with his hot temper, is a danger to the kids. And neither does the DA or the police. Faith and Liberty continue visits with their dad. So, one Wednesday night last spring, Mary Jeane drives the girls to the usual drop-off point, a parking lot at a local shopping center. What she doesn't know is that Battaglia's now been tipped off that she wants him in jail, and he's now burning with rage. He's running late, and Mary Jeane gets an eerie feeling.
So we circled around, and I said, oh, there he is. He pulled up, and they got out of the car.
The girls climb in their father's pickup truck. As Mary Jeane drives by, she says Battaglia leers angrily at her.
Faith saw me, and she was sitting in the middle, and she waved goodbye. That was it. That was the last I saw him.
Minutes after Faith waved goodbye to her mother, Battaglia drove the girls here to his apartment near downtown Dallas. No one knows if he was already planning the unthinkable or if he just wanted to change clothes before dinner and suddenly snapped. Mary Jeane, still feeling uneasy, cancels her plans and drives to a friend's home. On the way, she gets a message that her daughters want to talk to her. The next few minutes, she says, are too painful to describe for us. But she did recall the horror in a Dallas courtroom just a few weeks ago.
I said, hi. Hi, John. My mom called and said that the kids want to ask me something. And he said, girls? And Faith goes, Mommy, why do you want Daddy to have to go to jail? I go, no, John, don't do this. And then I hear Faith going, no, Daddy, please, Daddy, don't do it. Daddy, please, don't do it. And I hear him yell, Merry Christmas.
After the gunshots, silence. Mary Jeane hopes for the best but fears the unimaginable worst. Her friend dials 911. Mary Jeane gets on the phone.
Okay, ma'am, I understand. To my baby and then he shot the gun off.
She drives the 20 minutes to Battaglia's apartment and paces during the excruciating time it takes police to make their way upstairs. Frantic, she talks on her cell phone with the detective she knows while waiting.
They're dead. Oh my God.
When they came down and told you what they discovered in the apartment, what happened for you?
It's the most empty feeling you can ever have in your life. That you're everything. All your hopes, your dreams, your everything's just gone.
At first, Battaglia is nowhere to be found. He's fled to a bar where he places one last spine-chilling phone call to his daughter's answering machine.
Good night, my little baby. I hope you're resting in a different place. I love you. I wish that you had nothing to do with your mother. She was evil and vicious. I love you very dearly.
Then, in another bizarre twist, he stops at a tattoo parlor and has 2 roses tattooed on his arm. Later, from a jail cell, he would tell a reporter, 1 for each girl. Outside the tattoo parlor at 2 a.m., police finally capture him.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of capital murder.
It took a year for Battaglia to get to trial, but less than 20 minutes for the jurors to find him guilty. He's sentenced to death and plans an appeal.
Could something have been done along the way, down the line, that might have somehow signaled to someone that this man is a danger?
The problem was, and the problem is, that it is almost impossible to prevent a crime that no one, not even the victim, suspects will ever happen.
But with her daughters now gone, Mary Jeane Pearle insists the system must have failed somewhere. She says the courts, the experts, should have spotted the dangers she never did. And she's haunted that she is the one who turned her children over to their killer.
Have you forgiven yourself?
I don't beat myself up. I lived every day with those children like it was our last. We had a wonderful life. Every day here in this house was a good one. This was just bigger than me.
You kept their room intact?
Yes.
Do you go in there?
I do. I go in there pretty much every night and say our prayers. Tell them how much I love them.
Oh, John, what a tragedy.
Terrible.
But since the murder just over a year ago, Mary Jeane has tried to rebuild her life. She has remarried, and with the passing of time, she's beginning to think about having another child.
And some result has come out of this. Texas has now passed a law that says judges, when deciding child visitation, have to consider any family violence, even if it's not against the children.
Well, perhaps that will make a difference. Let's hope.